Sitting atop the watchtower in Gotham City, the Nerdy Knights are here to bring you some great comic book content. I'm one of your hosts. Some may call me snarky, some may call me a friendly neighborhood superhero, but you can call me Ben, the ridiculous Riddick. And my wonderful co-host has a gift for science and likes the color pink from San Francisco, Honey Lemon. I mean Anna, the not so ridiculous Riddick.
Ouch.
Ouch. What do you mean, ouch? Come on, that was a great opening for you. So, guys, this is episode 4. I know it's been who knows how long since episode 3, but I am ready to give you some of the greatest content ever. And as you may notice, my previous co-host, Amanda, is no longer with me. So I am replacing her with my sister, who better not screw up. Tonight's comic is Daredevil Yellow by Jeph Loeb. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the comic books that we've been reading that aren't our comic book club books. So Anna, tell me, what comic books have you been reading?
Batman and Robin Eternal.
Batman and Robin Eternal. How is it?
I really enjoy it. It took a very strange turn of events in the comic that I just finished with. I'm not on the newest one, so...
Gotcha. And who's the Robin in that one?
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind
all of them are there, and it picks up where Batman lost his memory. So there is no Batman.
Oh, cool.
It's a bunch of flashbacks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like it's actually pretty good. And how far are you in it?
I'm stuck on issue 12.
12?
Because, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I've been reading... I've actually been rereading Y: The Last Man, which is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. It is just so good, and it's something that I want to do on Nightly Novels at some point. But I just need to figure out exactly how an entire series is going to work on this show, because Anna, I do think it's a comic that you should read, because it's a really, really cool one. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Daredevil Yellow. And Daredevil Yellow was actually a very interesting book. It's in the same vein and series as some of my favorite comics, like Spider-Man Blue. It's Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, who do amazing work together. You may remember them from Batman: The Long Halloween. But this color series that they do with Marvel superheroes is really cool, because what it does is it kind of takes a trip down memory lane for each of the heroes. So there's Spider-Man Blue, there's Captain America White, there's Hulk Gray, and now there's Daredevil Yellow. And each one of these heroes have lost someone very, very close to them. So it's the color series is a memoir, essentially, to that person that they lost, and how that person that they lost made them better. And for Daredevil, the big loss for him is Karen Page. Karen Page, if you guys haven't read any Daredevil comics and you're coming here because you want Daredevil content, because guess what just came out? Daredevil Season 2. This Karen is the secretary for Nelson and Murdoch law firms, and the main love interest of Matt Murdock in the comics. She does eventually die in the comics because Bullseye kills her like a jerk. And this is Daredevil kind of going through and remembering how Karen changed his life for the better. So it's a little bit of an origin story, as well as just an overall love story. Anna, do you have anything else you want to add to the summary of that book? Did you think I summed it up pretty well?
I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, it touches a lot on his dad, so it's kind of a double memoir. He doesn't address any of the letters or the story content to his dad, but a large portion of it is about both his dad and Karen.
Yeah, this is true. And I did forget to mention the most important part. This series of comics is written as though it's a letter to Karen Page. So it's there are some really heart-wrenching moments in it. So Anna, let's talk a bit about the story of the book.
Okay.
Like what are the things that you enjoyed about the story of Daredevil?
I'm not a huge Daredevil fan in the sense where I had never read a comic for Daredevil up until now. So I enjoyed just the fact that you got that origin story in there. So I had a better understanding of the superhero himself. I enjoyed the continuous references to Spider-Man that Murdoch makes whenever Karen's talking about Daredevil. I thought that was cute.
You know, I think one of the reasons that is a big thing is in the comics, and the only Daredevil content that I have consumed prior to this book has been crossover with Spider-Man stuff. Because Daredevil and Spider-Man have a lot of crossover content because they're both kind of low-level heroes in New York. I mean, when you talk about the difference between like Spider-Man and Tony Stark, they're low-level heroes. They service New York City, whereas a lot of those other heroes, it's like, oh, there's a fight going on in Asia, we better go take it to them.
Right.
So I think I love all of the content that's there. I think one of my favorite parts in that book was when the Fantastic Four come knocking on their door.
Window.
Yeah, and the Thing pretty much just tears out the window. So not being a Daredevil reader, is this a book that you think would get you more interested in Daredevil's story, or do you think it's just going to be one of those, I'll read it when I have to for this show?
It's not necessarily that. I liked getting to know the character, and I don't dislike the character, but I don't see myself personally reading more
Daredevil
independent comics focusing on Daredevil. I like crossover events always, so I'm not going to not read it because it has Daredevil, and this definitely makes me more inclined to read the ones with crossovers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree. I think the problem with Daredevil in the comic book sense is he doesn't stand alone very well. Some of the best content that I've read Daredevil in is when he's been with Spider-Man or when he's been with the Defenders. Like the Iron Fist and all of that. But even those are characters that I wouldn't read just an Iron Fist comic. I'd read an Iron Fist with Daredevil and, Elektra and all of them in it. But I wouldn't necessarily just read about them. And I'm my big question for the Daredevil comic: does it make you interested in the Netflix series at all?
Yes, it does.
Because it drives me absolutely insane that you have not watched the Netflix series. Like all of the things I've taught you over the years, and you just completely failed me in that sense where you have not watched Daredevil.
Yeah. I mean, classes are also intense. Can't have both podcast or the show, Ben.
Yeah, fine. Fine. What did you think of the art style?
I love the art.
As a background to you, you are an art major.
Yes.
And you do a lot of art content. Like you draw, you're a costume designer. You are constantly trying to draw new things, and growing up with you, you've drawn all sorts of different characters and stupid things. Hell, if you've seen my Twitter image, the little me knight holding a shield with a Mjolnir and a dragon behind me, that's drawn by Anna. There's actually a lot of content that you've seen on Nerdy Nights that is art by Anna. So I'm kind of interested to hear, what are the specific things that you liked or disliked about the art?
I really liked that it was a different art style because they definitely focused it more on watercolor, or at least the digital equivalent, because you could tell that I mean, it wasn't legitimate watercolor. It was more like the paper 53 version of watercolor. But being able to see the
What is paper 53?
quote unquote strokes, it's just an application that you can get for your iPod or iPad.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. It's what I did your Twitter meme thing about. And in there, you can definitely see the collection of where the color pigment has overlapped and the different layers that they do. And I really enjoyed it. Obviously, it starts out in the black and white with the Daredevil just being the only thing in red, which I really enjoyed. And then when it transferred to the past and showed the different colors, you saw more of that watercolor style, but it didn't come out as strongly. But I still really, really, really enjoyed it. Really liked it.
Gotcha. I mean, one of the things that I really liked about it is it was more in the vein of old comics. Like now, a lot of comics are like they're done in a very different way to where it's not people drawing on paper. It is people are drawing on very obviously on the computer or on a tablet or something like that. And kind of adding to it that way. So I like this kind of ode to the old days, which the book really is about. It's an ode to the beginning of Daredevil, and it's just a great. The art goes hand in hand with the story because of the time period the story takes place. Again, what I really liked about it is it's an ode to that old style. And I feel like if they had tried to do this reboot the way that they do reboot movies and video games, all that sort of stuff where they remaster everything, I don't know if I would have liked this older age Daredevil in the newer style. I just think it's a lot easier to appreciate Daredevil Yellow in the style that it's drawn.
And you can tell that it has I like that you can tell that it's more of a personal touch to it than computer animated, piecing together, all that jazz.
Right. And not to say that the people that do the work on comics now don't go through a lot, but I mean, it's a very different style, and I like that they went back to the older style for it.
But I think a good comparison between these two are like the hand-drawn cartoon movies to the new Pixar jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just a taste.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I kind of wanted to ask you, Anna, is having really no background with Daredevil at all, how did you feel it did introducing the character of Daredevil? Were you lost at any point in time, or?
No, I wasn't lost at any point. I thought it was very easy to follow through. You got the character development really quickly, but I mean, it was kind of an overall recap.
Right.
So
it is an origin story. As much as I typically detest origin stories, it was a well done origin story. And if you don't know the character of Daredevil, I do feel like this is a great jumping on point. It's not the end of the world if you are a newbie, right?
Yeah, no. I would recommend it to people.
That's good. So I lost where I was. Can you think of a panel in the book that was your all-time favorite panel? Like just something that really stuck out to you? And I did ask you ahead of time to make sure that you kept an eye out for what it was.
My all-time favorite panel was the first two, and that was mainly because of the art. I really liked the high contrast and the black and white, and that Daredevil was the only thing in red, and I liked the artistic style and how you could definitely see the watercolor. So I mainly picked that panel specifically for the art in it.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
I have to say, I think some of my favorite panels were in the last book when Kilgrave is in it. Um, that
The
villain.
purple. Yeah.
Well, because they did such a great job at showing the people who were infected by Kilgrave. Like
Hmm.
anyone that he talked to had that hint, that like change of color a little bit, to show that they were um,
It
controlled
became
by him.
monochromatic. Yeah. In the
Yeah,
purple.
exactly.
And it
And
was funny because Murdoch kind of is like, this is where being blind, specifically colorblind, is a plus.
yeah, and it's actually very different because Kilgrave, the only way that I really know Kilgrave is in the Jessica Jones Marvel series,
Hmm.
because he's the main villain in it. And the way that they do his powers in that is it's not a you see him talking or it's you hear him talk and it's apparently some kind of infection that makes you do what he wants. So I feel like in that sense, if it were the Jessica Jones Netflix Kilgrave in the comic book, I still feel
Yeah.
like Daredevil would be affected by it, but who knows? He might have some other power. But I had never actually gotten Kilgrave content before this. So I was highly interested in that specifically, and I thought it was cool, and it was a neat way for him to really show off his interest in Karen.
Hmm.
So that was kind of my favorite panel. And the way I want to kind of end each show is I want to give the book a rating. And the way we're going to rate books is it's a 3-point scale. You either buy it, you wait for comic book day to get it, free comic book day to get it, um, or you just pass on it. So Anna, I am curious as to what your thought of a rating for this is. Would you recommend someone go out and buy it? Would you recommend them wait for it to be discounted or free? Or would you tell them to pass?
I would tell them to go and get it, especially if they're interested in Daredevil,
Absolutely.
and it's a good starting point.
And I loved the book. I thought it was great. I think as far as the color series for Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, I don't think it was their strongest. But I could just be biased to Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Can't tell. I've got a Spider-Man shirt. Got Spider-Man watching me here, and I've got Spider-Man Monopoly over there. So kind of a big Spider-Man fan. So I do want people to read it, but I'd probably say you can wait for it to be on sale. Although on Amazon you can easily pick it up for I think it's like $10 for the entire collection. So
Hmm. And I
not.
mean, I'm also one of those. I really like having paper copies.
Are you going to
So
go out and buy a paper copy of this?
no.
Okay. See, now that's the question I should ask. We're reading all of these books digitally because I share my comic books with you. That should be the
Hmm.
question I ask you from now on is, will you actually go out and buy a hard copy of?
No.
All right. Um, and just so you guys know, this book is coming out, or this episode is coming out at the same time as, around the same time, rather, as Daredevil Season 2 on Netflix. So if you don't watch that, I do highly recommend the series. It is wonderfully fantastic. And I I would be remiss to tell you that it's not great. And then next week, or rather on next episode, we are going to be reading Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, um, to get us geared up for Batman vs Superman. So, guys, thank you so much. Remember, you can find us on Twitter. I am at BRidiculous. That's BRIDDICKULOUS. And then, of course, be sure to watch other Nerdy Nights content. Every Monday night, you can catch me and Mike DeMarco and Sam Chen hosting Nerdy Nights Radio, where we talk about the nerd culture topics of yesterday and today. You can find Mike DeMarco's Let's Play podcast, where currently I am playing Final Fantasy VII with him for the very first time. Never played a Final Fantasy game. And those release every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And you can find this show, Nightly Novels, live every Wednesday for your viewing pleasure. And of course, visit the website, www.nkrn.org, and shoot us some support. Thank you guys so much. And until next week, Excelsior.